So, hi everyone. I'm here today with Tom Madsen, and we'll be chatting about cybersecurity and zero trust, and of course, Tom's new book, Zero Trust: An Introduction. Welcome, Tom, and thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me. Much appreciated.
So, Tom, you're an experienced security architect. So, can you give us a bit info about your background and experience in cybersecurity?
Yeah, well, I have 20 plus years of cybersecurity under my belt now. I've spent many years within the United Nations systems, and right now I'm in a private Danish company called KMD, which is big within the public sector, advising both private and public customers on cybersecurity.
Mhm. And so, regarding the topic of your book, could you briefly explain what zero trust architecture entails and why it's becoming increasingly important in today's cybersecurity landscape?
Sure. Well, zero trust is as an architecture framework is important because of the increasing complexity of our cyber or various IT OT environments. Zero trust has been talked about since the early 90s, but it's only in the past 4 or 5 years that it has become big, and the various security companies have started promoting it as a concept as well. The reason why I wrote the book originally is because there are as many opinions on what zero trust is as there are people having an opinion on zero trust. So I'm not saying I'm sitting with the philosopher's stones or anything like that, but NIST has a fairly good document called 800-207 describing zero trust and the benefits and how to go about it. But it's mainly because of the as seeing zero trust as an architecture framework and not as a product. This means you think about zero trust as you design new solutions, whether it be on software, hardware, infrastructure, or anything like that. But it's difficult to implement in already existing infrastructures because there's a lot of legacy, a lot of heterogeneous environment and stuff like that. So it's difficult for clients to okay, we will go the zero trust way from now on because they have a lot of legacy they need to take into account. So doing it is a challenge.
Hmm. And how does your book address those specific challenges and considerations related to implementing zero trust in cloud environments, for example?
Well, in cloud environments, it's actually fairly easy because all the big cloud vendors, Microsoft, Amazon, Oracle, insert a cloud vendor here of choice, have already designed the cloud infrastructure in a way that makes zero trust not implicit in their design, but much easier to do from the get-go. Because usually when you go the cloud way, I'm using Azure terminology here because Microsoft Azure is the cloud vendor I'm most familiar with. So when you design a software piece of software that runs natively on the Microsoft cloud, you can actually do a design zero trust from almost from the design part and moving forward because of the way Microsoft has done their cloud design. So in the cloud infrastructure, it's actually quite easy unless you have been on the cloud for many years and have built up a lot of legacy stuff in the cloud, in which case you're back to the original challenge because of legacy and old design before zero trust became big.
Hmm. And so networking plays a role in zero trust architecture. Could you elaborate on how your book approaches networking in the context of zero trust and what readers can expect to learn?
Yeah, well, I see the networking layer as the place you should start a zero trust project because the network is the foundation of everything on top of it, whether it be virtualization, operating system, databases, and stuff like that. And for many years, we have talked about segmentation of the network, segmentation this and segmentation that. And with zero trust, segmentation is still a big thing, but now we can all also start to control what kind of traffic is allowed between various segments. Should SQL Server traffic be allowed on a segment with an SAP ERP infrastructure, stuff like that? But if you haven't designed or looked at the network as the foundation, then kind of like zero trust becomes islands on top of that infrastructure up through this the stack. That's why I always tell my clients start at the networking layer. But
Mhm.
even that is a challenge because most clients have big networks, multiple locations, possibly even international locations, in which case then it becomes, well, a
Challenges.
challenge. But it is at the networking layer that a zero trust project should begin, in my opinion. I'm open for other opinions as well. So
Mhm. Okay. And what about identity management is a key aspect of Zero Trust. How does your book guide readers through implementing robust identity management practices within a Zero Trust framework?
yeah, well, identity is the new firewall, so to speak. And what I mean by that is because with the proliferation of cloud and heterogeneous cloud, private cloud, public cloud, and all the various stuff, and some will be using Oracle Cloud, some will be using Salesforce and stuff like that.
Mhm.
That makes it difficult to kind of control what is allowed on your infrastructure because your infrastructure is distributed all over the world. So the one thing you have control over is the identities of the users. So that's where you can control what the users are allowed to do in Oracle, in Microsoft, in Salesforce, or whatever it is that you are using. And that's the one thing that the companies have control over. And because of that, the identity and protecting the identities becomes extremely important. Also, when you start to distribute your identities to Salesforce or to Microsoft or to IBM or anything like that, then all of a sudden you have your identities not local anymore, controlled within your own infrastructure, but distributed out there, meaning the control of the identities and what these identities are allowed to do on the various systems becomes extremely important. So identity is the second part that I recommend my clients to look at after the network, uh, because it's such a core part of who you are, what are you allowed to see, what are you allowed to do, and stuff like that, and of course logging and control of what has been done after the fact.
Mhm. So with the surge of 5G technology, what
Yeah.
implication does Zero Trust have on securing 5G networks?
Well, in the case of 5G, because after we got the mobile technology 5G, it became possible on various vendors, both Cisco and Fortinet and insert a networking vendor, made it possible for clients to actually have their own 5G infrastructures.
Mhm.
And I have seen clients that have chosen then to, okay, we will use 5G in our production environments, all the way out there where the valves and the pumps and all sorts of other stuff is controlled. Uh, and with 5G, even though there's all sorts of encryption already present in there, it becomes your responsibility to make the design in a way that you can control who can see what. Because in 5G, everybody can see everything in principle. So that makes it difficult for the clients to then control what kind of traffic are allowed. But then it becomes a question of how do you then allow devices to access the 5G or the wireless in whatever it is and that becomes then the identity of the device that is allowed on that network and what is this device allowed to talk to other stuff in this case. So when you are deploying a private 5G environment for your own, we have a massive healthcare or life science provider in Denmark that has deployed 5G on their production lines for medications. So because of lack of local mobile coverage, so they created their own. And because they have their an enormous amount of staff there, so even though if there was a mobile mast right outside the building, it wouldn't be able to cope with the amount of people on that specific location, which is another reason why some companies go there, create their own 5G and integrate it into the already existing mobile network, or just creates their own closed one. So
Mhm. So, going back to the bigger picture, Zero Trust is described as a mindset rather than a product, as you've said. So can you elaborate on what this means and how your book helps readers adopt this mindset?
Well, I think it's pretty much my first comment in the book saying it is not a product. If any person comes and pitches to you, buy from us and this gizmo and you will be zero trust compliant. Well, they should be kicked out because there is no single product that can do this. A combination of products can implement zero trust, but no single product can do it. It is the way you approach how do you design your application, how do you design your databases, how do you design your network, how do you design your infrastructure, how do you segment, which kind of traffic is allowed between network segments in this case. So no single vendor can implement zero trust all the way from the network to the identities and servers and operating systems on top. It is a way of approaching the design. That's why I call zero trust an architecture framework, not a gizmo. However much certain vendors would like to pitch their product as the solution, there is no solution. It is a process. And it's also a case of you having to maintain, when you've finished off this, you also need to maintain it after the fact. Otherwise, it'll just fizzle out and it will go back to the old way of doing things. So it is a way of approaching the design of infrastructure or solutions and then maintaining them after they've been deployed.
So who is the intended audience for your book, Zero Trust, an introduction, and how do you envision various professionals and stakeholders benefiting from its insights?
Well, I hope they will. The takeaway I'm hoping to give them is that there is no final solution to what zero trust is. Zero trust in a financial sector is different from zero trust in life science and is different from insert another vertical here. There is no solution. There is the zero trust that you feel is enough for your company in this case, and it is not a product. It is the how do you approach the design of a new solution, whether you're a security architect, enterprise architect, application architect, whatever it is. Taking the zero trust mindset and applying to your design effort. Of course, if you are just a little island in a massive infrastructure, it becomes difficult. But the whole idea about the book is introducing the concept of zero trust and also elaborate why it is a design approach, not a tools approach. Although tools are very effective in assisting with zero trust.
Okay, I think that's a great takeaway. So thank you so much for your time and discussing
Thank you for
your
having
book.
me.
I'll put the links below to where you can get the book. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
You can find me on LinkedIn for those of you who wants to reach out to me.